Hi guys! Today we'll be recapping a story called It's My First Time Being Loved. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. Enjoy! Do you have a positive connection with your family? Maybe even one filled with love and affection? If so, you're fortunate, as not everyone experiences such a bond and privilege. In this fantasy novel, a young girl experiences the complete opposite of a loving family. Her own parents make her a sacrificial lamb. They even beg her to sacrifice herself, as they are trying to manipulate her into thinking that by doing so, she can live for herself. At this point, her father kneels in front of her out of too much desperation. She is starting to feel bored as she watches her family members show false benevolence towards her just because they want a favor in return. With that, she then decides to give her life to them, knowing that she's the only human who can prevent the destruction of the world. A girl who has been reborn many times has experienced 99 different lives, yet she remains the same person, enduring mistreatment from her own family. After one life after another, mysterious powers also accumulate. That's why saving the world at the cost of her life is no big deal. As her father expresses gratitude for her decision, she restrains him from playing such games. It won't work on her anymore, you fool. She thinks that he deserves to pay a high price after how she's been wrongfully treated. For that reason, she takes her magic baton as she tells him to preserve a life wherein she will never have to see his face again. The family's in shock as they read in a newspaper article about them being abusive parents. Shortly, the Imperial soldiers arrive. She then proceeds to fly away with the use of her power. That recounts her initial life experience. During that period, her parents regarded starting a family as merely a checklist item in life. Consequently, she and her brother were raised in a state of neglect. Despite the absence of love from her family, she maintains a fondness for people, largely due to the support of friends who reached out to her. However, just as she approaches her 20th birthday, she tragically bids farewell to life without having the chance to truly embrace it, as she is involved in an accident. In the life that followed, the world was always close to falling apart, and the only chance to save it was constantly being pushed to death. People kept asking her to sacrifice herself to save them, and she kept hoping that things would get better next time. But even after 5 or 6 tries, it had already happened 99 times. Whoa, that's a lot! It must be horrible to live like this over and over again. At this point, there are no regrets in life. It's even more terrifying to see a world turned into chaos. With that much power, it now seems like people are blaming her for not saving them. No matter how insensitive she becomes, she doesn't want to witness the same thing again. She simply wishes for it to be over and no longer holds any expectations. As she accepts her 99th death, she repeats her simple wish like it's a habit. Following that, she reincarnates in her 100th life as a newborn baby in a noble family. She then calms herself since she can't use her strength until her first birthday. The moment she sees her pink-haired father with a frown, she thinks that her life this time is once again ruined. Oh no, I really hope that doesn't happen. Fingers crossed this time it will be different. Is it another act of neglect and abuse this time? Until this world falls apart again, she can't do anything. A life fell apart before her eyes. Just like dust, her soul is tied up. Does she have to watch it all over again? It's like a scene from a nightmare in which she can never wake up. She would rather live and let her experience all the pain herself than keep watching until the world runs out. As her father fondly strokes her face while she smiles and her mother gazes at her with adoration, she is completely taken by surprise. She finds their joyful expressions perplexing. However, all she hopes is for her 100th life to be quiet and peaceful. Her mother believes she saved the world despite being a newborn, which is why she named her Anastasia, a name befitting a hero. She becomes anxious because whenever a hero's name is brought up, she constantly ends up living the most difficult and impoverished life. I hope it won't be Jinx, though. It's cliché to think that she'll be treated like a hero and make her sacrifice herself again. It would be naive of her to anticipate a change this time, as she is convinced that things will only worsen. Now, she's annoyed. 1 month later, after being born, nothing happened, which is quite surprising. However, it's too early to relax. In Anastasia's past life, everyone initially treated her kindly because she was dubbed a hero. However, it became apparent that they were simply afraid of her abilities and ended up exploiting and mistreating her. Thus, she has no choice but to be on guard. She then continues to observe her surroundings. In this life, her mother has jet black hair and bright red eyes, while her father has a world-like appearance. Her father's appearance is completely opposite to his personality because he's very affectionate towards her. Moreover, she finds the maids to be surveillance, which she finds scary. Poor girl, she's really traumatized. Later on, Anastasia witnesses her father scolding the family doctor. It turns out that he's worried because she's never cried or laughed, so he thinks she's unhealthy. Despite being told that she's healthy multiple times, he believes otherwise. Due to her past traumas, everything feels unfamiliar to her, leaving her uncertain about what actions to take. However, when the doctor is on the verge of being punished, she begins to cry, disrupting the situation. As a result, his mood shifts immediately. He joyfully lifts her up, infused with newfound emotions from her. He maintains his effort to console her until another young girl arrives, clearly upset. Laura, Anastasia's older sister in this life, expresses her frustration at feeling excluded. After seeing her older sister, Anastasia feels more worried than happy. Given all that she's experienced, her perspective is that siblings divert their parents' attention away from her. Laura joins her in their father-daughter bonding, gazing at her younger sister with complete adoration. Unexpectedly, she embraces her little sister and even offers her pudding, although her father refuses to allow it. Cute, but she's too young for that. As an alternative, she offers her precious stuffed toy instead. Even though she can't sleep without it, she's willing to lend it to her adorable little sister. Anastasia reminds herself not to let her guard down just because she's being nice to her. Her uninterested face makes Laura think that she dislikes it. To cheer her up, she makes a peekaboo face, which catches her off guard. However, both her sister and father are amused by her reaction. With that, rumors spread that they saw her smile because of that peekaboo game. From that day on, the maids try to do the same thing to her and make weird faces when they're bored. Certainly, her father is also engaged in the matter. Soon after, her mother dismisses everyone from the room to ensure she can rest properly. Honestly, she's struggling to comprehend recent events, which I think is understandable. Later that afternoon, Damien, Anastasia's older brother, pays her a visit. He's 5 years older than her, and despite his age, he's educated and the heir to the dukedom. He's also included in her lookout list, though. He proceeds to give his tiger doll to her after he pokes her face playfully. She finds it quite suspicious now. Similar to Laura, it's his favorite toy, yet he willingly hands it over to his younger sister. In exchange, he desires to witness her laugh. Because of that, she perceives the entire family as peculiar for treating her in this manner. As soon as she laughs, Damien looks at her amusingly after witnessing such an adorable reaction. Over the course of her life, she learned the importance of being cautious through difficult experiences. Despite consistently facing disappointment, she still holds on to hope for positive outcomes in the future. In Anastasia's 100th reincarnation, the people around her treat her differently. Unless her family turns away, she decides to live with little motivation. Anastasia looks like an angel in her blue dress. Because of that, her mother is willing to buy anything for her, no matter the price. It's surprising for her because she still isn't used to such nice treatment. Now that she can crawl, express emotions, and do everything else, the only thing she cannot do is communicate. That proves that she's indeed just an ordinary baby, despite having powers. Lately, her life has been peaceful. Moreover, her weirdly loving family makes it more interesting. When they observe her rolling over on her own for the first time, everyone finds it entertaining. They even decided to celebrate her first flip. Wow, that's superb! With that, she is having her first flipping party in her life. Just to clarify, it's merely a gathering with family. At mealtime, each family member presents their respective gifts to Anastasia. Additionally, the maids praise her for her remarkable conduct. In her mind, it's only a baby's first rollover, so there's no need to make a fuss. As expected, the place seems a bit unusual for her, especially because everyone is overly affectionate. While the whole family is watching the fireworks later on that night, her mother wishes for her to stay healthy and grow bigger in the future. The next day seems to be quiet after having such an amazing day. After the party, the employees' year-end vacation begins. There's only one maid assigned temporarily to watch her as of now. Everyone in the family is busy at the moment with their own business, so she's left alone with the maid, who has currently fallen asleep. Taking advantage of this rare opportunity, she tries to climb a sofa. As she attempts to reach it, an older maid comes up to her and carries her. To Anastasia's surprise, it's the first time she's encountered that face. This immediately triggers suspicion in her. Suddenly, the maid swiftly covers her face with a handkerchief, rendering her unconscious temporarily. This marks the beginning of her abduction. Well, her instincts are right. As soon as Anastasia wakes up uncomfortably, she finds a man running while carrying her, this time instead of the maid. She blames herself for being too careless. However, she's honestly glad that it's just kidnapping rather than being killed or left alone. But what if she'll get killed, though? This situation is clearly dire. It has only been a year, and she cannot allow another nightmare to unfold. Despite her ability to use teleportation magic, she is considering the option of allowing herself to be kidnapped in order to uncover the perpetrator. Oh no, that's so dangerous! She ponders whether the culprit is specifically targeting the Duke family, or if there are individuals who become aware of her abilities. Regardless, she deems it important to investigate and find out. Although Anastasia cannot return home at this moment, she is reluctant to make her family worry. While still running away, the kidnapper is suddenly struck by an arrow, seemingly out of nowhere. Momentarily, she hears a young voice nearby. He then points his sword at the man as he tries to save her. I wonder who that could be. Even though he's just a kid, he seems to be quite powerful. Nevertheless, this doesn't deter the kidnapper from fleeing, prompting the young boy to give chase. On another note, he seems to be around the same age as Anastasia's brother. In the end, he manages to rescue her from the hands of the kidnapper. While he is attending to her, the man attempts to launch a surprise attack from behind. Instantly, she employs protection magic, causing the man to collapse, leaving them both bewildered by what just happened. Exhausted from exerting too much force with her tiny body, she also collapses into the comforting embrace of the young boy. Shortly afterward, Anastasia's father arrives, displaying a mixture of anger and concern. Upon waking up, Anastasia overhears her parents whispering, discussing something grave regarding the situation. With evident concern etched on their faces, her father promptly instructs someone to call the doctor. Her mother is burdened with guilt for not staying by her side, realizing she should have remained with her. However, she acknowledges that her father's duty as a duke were crucial at that time, showing an understanding of his responsibilities. Also, she realizes that the recoil is large because she uses her powers without preparation, which causes her to lose consciousness from just that amount of force. Shortly after, Anastasia's parents offer her an apology, taking her by surprise. They display genuine kindness towards her, something rare and precious, and she is determined not to cause them any harm. Now she really wants to grow up quickly. The following day, her father commands knights to ensure her protection henceforth, demonstrating loyalty to his youngest daughter. Actually, the attempted kidnapping occurred because the son of a couple employed at the Duke's residence had accumulated debts he couldn't manage. Consequently, during the year-end vacation, they abducted her and demanded money from Anastasia's father in exchange for her safe return. Thankfully, her brother's friend, the young boy who rescued her, located the culprit and swiftly intervened to stop him. It's reported that the perpetrators were forcefully removed with numerous broken bones. Additionally, her parents remarked that it was an exceptionally lenient punishment or something similar. Anyway, returning to the scene of the group of knights kneeling before Anastasia, she considers that 20 of them might be excessive for escorting a baby, but acknowledges that it's a prudent decision for the safety of her sister and brother. Additionally, it would be a kind gesture for her to offer some words of encouragement to them, as her father has requested. She thinks that at first, people might not value encouragement from a baby. However, observing their expectant expressions prompts her to make some baby sounds nonetheless. With that, the knights pledge to safeguard her at any expense, their expressions flustered by her adorableness. After 1 month of the Night Corps assignment incident, the number of people in Anastasia's room has increased. There are now 2 more people outside the room guarding her. As her body matures, it becomes easier for her to interpret signals. Even after her first birthday, gathering information would be a straightforward task. Although that seems like a long time, considering she's only 7 months old. Even though there were only financial reasons behind the kidnapping episode, her family is nonetheless in an unstable condition. Returning to the day Anastasia was abducted, her parents appeared noticeably uneasy as they ventured out together, a rare occurrence for them to leave the house simultaneously. Given their status as the Duke's family, there are bound to be hostile forces. She considers the idea of utilizing some of her powers, although she worries that if she falls ill with a high fever again, it will cause concern for her family. However, nobody else has the duty to prevent the destruction of the world but her. As a result, Damien pays a visit to Anastasia in her room. She quickly crawls towards him and embraces him, which catches him off guard. She sure is growing up too quickly. Shortly, he tells her about his friend who wants to see her. Actually, she has already met him before. The first person that comes to mind is the young boy who saved her before. Oh, well, she's right. In her mind, she thinks that she has already met him somewhere in the past. Well, going through a long period of reincarnation, even in other worlds, it is possible to come across familiar people somewhere. Sometimes when Anastasia encounters such individuals, she will casually walk past them, feeling like she has encountered them in a previous life. However, with Damien's friend, she experiences an odd sense of familiarity and longing. Well, his visit is an opportunity for her to take a closer look. On the other hand, the little Duke arrives just in time. He hurriedly steps down the carriage as he looks for the princess. On the way to meet the princess, the little Duke is reminded to keep his promise and remain polite towards Anastasia. As soon as they meet once again, he greets her with fascination at how small she is. In the meantime, she anticipates that upon seeing him up close again, she might recall something, but she doesn't. Meanwhile, Damien scolds his friend for not introducing himself properly yet. The boys engage in a brief argument, just like typical friends would. Shortly after, Mikhail Leventis, the sole successor to the Grand Duke of Leventis, formally introduces himself to Anastasia. He proceeds to kiss the back of her hand as a gesture of respect, leaving Damien completely shocked. Whoa, I wasn't expecting that gesture. Following their initial encounter, Mikhail has been spending more than half of the month at their mansion. With the Grand Duke Leventis preoccupied with political matters, Mikhail and Damien opt to study together. As a result, the maid's current focus is entirely on him. Speaking of which, they are rather surprised to see him visiting once again today. Mikhail eagerly approaches Anastasia upon arrival. Shortly after, he presents her with a gem and requests that she smile. A few days earlier, he had inquired with the maids about her lack of laughter. They explained that understanding the baby princess better is necessary to catch a glimpse of her smile. Whoops, it seems like her smile is not for everyone to see. After that day, he starts bringing gifts that prove to be of little use. Anastasia only responds with smiles to her own siblings, though. Acting like typical children, they turn it into a contest to make her smile. This competition sparks Mikhail's competitive spirit. Why does it seem like she's some sort of entertainment for them? With that, he comes to show her every lace and piece of jewelry. He notices her sigh, showing a hint of disinterest. Meanwhile, she is currently worried about the lack of walking and babbling. As she tries to climb onto the sofa, she promptly falls back. Luckily, Mikhail manages to catch her. The maids rush over in a panic to check on her. He starts to feel remorseful about the incident. It becomes apparent that he had placed the ruby in her hooded cloak, explaining why it became heavy when she attempted to stand up. In his defense, his intentions were pure. He didn't anticipate her tripping over it. Now aware of the situation, Anastasia becomes angry. She feels embarrassed and expresses her frustration by pointing her finger at him with a furious expression, conveying her disdain for him. Uh-oh, I believe the excitement has reached its limit. After almost getting into an accident of falling headfirst, the youngest princess, Anastasia, is consoled by Mikhail. He felt apologetic after putting the princess in danger because he placed the hand-sized ruby on the princess's hood when she was struggling to stand by herself. Meanwhile, the two maids are clueless about how Mikhail is able to understand baby Anastasia's babbling and baby talk. He makes baby language look easy when it's really not. I wouldn't even try to understand da coming from a baby. What a talent! Anastasia, on the other hand, feels a bit wary of Mikhail's uncanny ability to understand her. She feels bad that her older brother and sister can't do the same thing. Hence, she stops Mikhail from consoling her and screams at him to leave her alone. As if he did not hear her, Mikhail offers to show baby Anastasia how to stand on her feet and walk. For the 7th-month-old baby, Anastasia feels horrible upon knowing that Mikhail has already mastered walking for only half a year while she still staggers on her wobbly feet. Following this, she slowly accepts Mikhail's hand, which he kept on offering her for several minutes. But eventually, Mikhail has already stood and guides her to stand completely. Baby Anastasia is amused by her achievement, along with the maids who are deeply honored and proud to see the princess standing at a young age. A mix of emotions is what the princess feels after standing up so easily due to Mikhail's help. She feels bad about Mikhail being a show-off while also feeling a hint of joy for achieving such normal development as a kid. Little does she know, Mikhail plans to let her walk for the first time as a baby. When he tells her about the high chance that she can walk right away, she gets scared. But it is too late as she has already taken her first step. Go, little princess! Take your tiny steps one at a time! Everyone in the room feels joyous upon seeing her walk. However, Damien suddenly snatches Anastasia away from Mikhail's grasp when he finds out that she fell a while ago. As an overprotective brother, he blamed Mikhail for doing such a reckless deed. Mikhail tries to explain his intentions, but Damien fails to connect with him or even understand his side, and commands Mikhail to never see Anastasia again. The childish feud continues as Damien screams at Mikhail, blaming his presence for the danger he puts the princess. What stops Damien's tirade is when Mikhail confesses how nice it would feel to have a younger sister like Damien has. From Damien's perspective, he loves to spend time with his younger siblings as much as he loves them. His fondness for reading allows him to gather his younger siblings and read them a story, especially bedtime stories and singing lullabies. What he also loves is to have snacks with the two around the clock. However, after Mikhail's presence and time spent with Anastasia, he gave up his bedtime stories with his siblings. This somehow made him feel sad and envious of Mikhail's developing fondness on the princess. Meanwhile, Mikhail's knowledge about family falls short because he only has his busy grandfather as family, which makes him more curious about the young baby. The curiosity makes him feel warmed and a bit loved to have someone he can give his attention to aside from his sword. He simply did not know how to act around a baby. He was so innocent and ignorant. Meanwhile, Anastasia kinda blamed herself for what happened between Mikhail and Damien. She even feels bad for speaking Mikhail's name before anyone's name from her family. So, as much as she hates the idea, she wants to stop them from bickering by using the method. She cries loudly, worrying all of them, but also mending their relationship. She communicates with Mikhail to let the two of them apologize for the hurtful words they threw at each other a while ago. Effectively, the two mend their friendship and express why they acted that way. Mikhail asserts how lacking he was in terms of experience with little children, given what happened a while back, because he does not have any siblings or any younger sisters. With this, Damien feels bad about how he screamed at him and apologizes for his behavior. So as a friend's request, Mikhail asks Damien to help him experience and know what to do with the baby princess, how to deal with her, or even how to play with her. He promises not to touch the princess when told not to. Otherwise, accidents might happen from his mischievous ideas and pranks that he developed from his old environment of being alone all the time. They reconcile at last and share Anastasia's attention while she slowly dozes off to sleep from all the crying. Prior to her dozing off, she comes to realize that the method she used for their reconciliation tires the baby out, and eventually, a nap is what she needs. In her sleep, she is brought into a dark, empty place while the ground she is sitting on is all wet with a hint of water. A few moments later, as her curiosity grew stronger, in front of her was a heavily locked and chained cocoon-like wrap of a mystery. Like a magnet, her body moves towards the thing in front of her when suddenly a voice is heard. The thing speaks and pleads for her help and tells her that it is her understanding. As soon as she touches the mysterious entity, with a surprise, the chains break and reveal a version of Anastasia with a swaddle on her head and slowly vanishes, leaving her hanging. What should she remember? I'm getting even more curious about this new entity. The small entity in Anastasia's dream draws closer, almost touching the baby's face while mouthing words of remembrance. Anastasia feels many things, including the weakness of her body, when a familiar voice is heard. Anastasia and her reflective entity look at the source of the voice when suddenly Anastasia awakes. She sees Mikhail and gets confused about his presence. She leans to her right and sees all the members of her family gathered around her with worried but relieved faces. She has already rested for a week without waking, and this has gotten the family scared to death, including Mikhail. Following this, her siblings cry out of relief for their youngest sister's recovery, but what amuses her is when her father thanks Mikhail for saving her. Mikhail is the one who went out of his way to seek help from his distant grandfather, who offered him a blue crystal to take away the curse from Anastasia that has been causing her fever for a week. The Duchess falls to her knees while carrying Anastasia in her arms, relieved about her daughter's safety. Likewise, the youngest princess feels gratitude towards Mikhail for saving her again this time. However, a mixture of trepidation fills her heart while she reminds herself that even in her 100th life, it will not be any easier than the rest that she had lived. And for a month, she sleeps with heavy enchantments from protection and no more unwelcome guests. Anastasia stays with her father for leisure, and while she is struggling to keep herself standing by holding onto the bed, her father calls her name to challenge her to come to him. She finds this opportunity to see her development and accepts it playfully like normal infants do. With just 3 small but brave steps, she's about to fall but is caught by her father quickly. He feels so proud of his youngest princess for her bravery, which he flaunts to his knights who are witnessing the youngest princess walk. Then the Duke has a swift idea in mind for his people. He asks the knights if they are training as eagerly as the youngest princess, and upon knowing their consecrated answers, he plans to evaluate their strengths and training effectiveness through mandating a martial arts competition. The knights are astonished for such arduous evaluation, but cannot say no to their highness. Excitedly, the Duke adds the highlight of his plans to have the protagonists be his daughters, Laura and Anastasia. I love how the Duke equally treats his children. No biases whatsoever. So, the knights immediately announce the Duke's command with the others to commence the preparations for the event in mid-April. Springtime has already come, and the preparations for the upcoming mid-April martial arts competition are starting thus far. The Duchess expresses her plans about the youngest princess, Anastasia's outfit for the upcoming grand event. She wishes to have a cute headpiece to accent Anastasia's short hair and is contemplating the color of her daughter's dress. The maids ask the madam what she wore when she was young. That's when the Duchess remembers that she looked nice in yellow and considers having a yellow cloth with intricate flower designs be made as Anastasia's dress. It is indeed undeniable that the youngest princess definitely looks like her with identical ruby-colored eyes and jet black hair, which gives a great deal of assurance that the color will look fantastic on the youngest princess. Finally, the Duchess commands the tailor to create a fabulous dress for her daughter, along with more dresses from the clothes she has prepared for her princess. Despite being overwhelmed by the number of fabrics seen, the tailor nonetheless accepts the challenge, for she can't say no to the beautiful Duchess. The martial arts competition commences today. Early in the morning, the maids look amazed by how cute and elegant the youngest princess looked in the dress. The Duchess is certainly impressed with the tailor and paid double for Anastasia's dress. I wonder what's inside the princess's head for being overly protected. Oh well, she is a princess. We cannot blame her for that status. Minutes prior to the event, Anastasia was paired with Mikhail for the event, which kind of frustrates her for the discomfort he brings. Soon, the Duchess receives the warmest applause after her inspiring opening speech. Finally, when the audience pauses for silence, she introduces her children and the highlight of honor, Anastasia, who will be giving the winner a bouquet of flowers. The audience screams with glee, but before the game begins, her children share their inspirational cheers when Anastasia gets dumbfounded inside when her mother gives her the spotlight to speak. Knowing fully well that she can only babble, it kind of felt cringe to not be understood. Still, she babbles, and with Mikhail's help, is interpreted well. Afterwards, Anastasia is taken aback when Mikhail asks her if she has anything to say to him to motivate him as well, when he surprises her with the news of entering the game despite only being 6 years old. What surprises her even more is that by the moment she's looking for her father, she hears his voice and realizes that he is also entering the game. You know, being a bubbly duke is kind of cool. The martial arts competition has officially begun, but the Duke, with his puppy-like behavior, continues to wave generously toward his children from above, where the royalty shall be seated. The Duchess feels secondhand embarrassment from his actions, but lets him have fun anyway. First, because this event is his idea, and second, she knows that it's probably something she cannot stop him from doing. While Laura continues to encourage her father, the game begins with the Duke and a knight. Anastasia's thoughts are quite presumptive that her father did not necessarily need to join, given the difference in his abilities and strength from the others. As soon as the sparring commences, her father is already commenting on the knight's positions and stances during the sparring, as if it's just training instead of a competition. Expectedly, the Duke wins the first sparring and straight away waves at his children again, asking them how cool he looked. I bet Anastasia feels a little happy to see bubbly Duke like that. This puts her off reality and immerses herself in the thought of being attached to her family again and ends up being killed. She then remembers the entity inside her dream and is on the run to investigate it. The applause of the people regains her back to the sparring, and it is already Mikhail's turn. He fights with a knight 10 years older than him, but surprisingly wins the sparring in the heat of the moment. Damien, on the other hand, envies him in a way that he sees Anastasia looking at Mikhail's game intently. On the flip side, Mikhail's luck instantly left his side on his second round of sparring, given that his opponent is the Duke. He tries his best to fight regardless of knowing the difference in their body, experience, and abilities. Anastasia evaluates Mikhail's skills by her knowledge and experience from her past life. She sees a great future ahead of him and his potential to become the greatest knight like her father years from now. Although she wants to witness that triumph, She shrugs it off, knowing that she won't be around that time anyway. Moments pass by, and he is defeated by the Duke, and the event ended swiftly. As expected, the winner of the event is the Duke, who is still praised by the people for his bravery. Then, the two princesses offered the flowers to him. Knowing fully well how he loves his children so much, he blushes at the sight of his youngest daughter walking towards him to offer her flowers. The Duchess ends the event by hitting the Duke 3 times on his side for not even trying to save face as the Duke. However, that does not stop him from showering his joy and love for his family. After the event, the Duke offers free meat and beer to the community. People show their gratitude freely as they eat and enjoy the feast. One of the commoners is a middle-aged farmer who speaks with his older folk. As they speak, he expresses his thoughts about the youngest lady being a variation among the other children of the Duke. The old folk, who also have not seen the youngest princess yet, wondered in synchrony. However, the old folk do not agree with him as he thinks that the youngest will still have the features of the Duke with pink hair. Suddenly, someone barges into the cabin that the farmers are in and announces the Duke's parade nearing their area. Everyone rushed outside, including the 2 farmers, to check their presumptions. The young farmer slips through the people with glee, knowing his assumptions are right. He tells his old folk about his truths and celebrates the kindness and activeness of the Duke in his reign. Anastasia, on the other hand, navigates her eyes through the crowd as their parade continues to pass through the city. She sees the beauty of celebrations and the fruition of her father's love for the people. It takes him several lame excuses to bring them free food and resolve the drought that they are suffering from. She then sees the knight who fought in the event earlier, offering her flowers from the kids in the city. She receives them with a smile and babbles while her inner self reflects on her past self. She believes that the knight is indeed a faithful one. Anastasia feels a bit guilty for her mindset as a knight in the past. She thought that her only goal was to protect her master, and as long as they quivered in fear, she was assured that she could protect them. It's a new feeling to her being the one protected, except for a princess that she served in the past. She then wonders if that princess lived a long life after she had cast several spells to protect her before she died. Moving on, she ponders on the idea of remembering her past when she shouldn't be dwelling on it and preparing herself for the future. Looking at her present family, she has decided it is the right time to use her powers and call her assistants. Then, a few hours later, someone speaks from behind her. It is Mikhail, who converses with her again and expresses his efforts in training to carry a baby for Anastasia. And after time quickly flies by, it is already the end of May. The Duchess is found finishing her diary, in which she writes about events in the past months. She wrote in her diary that on May 5th, Anastasia grew her first lower teeth, how Laura enjoyed her birthday for having a pink cake like her hair, and how they celebrated Anastasia's first successful climb on the sofa. Returning to those memories, the Duchess smiles with love at the events that created such beautiful things in her life and motherhood. A little side of her feels sad and pleased to somehow slow down Anastasia's growth as a kid, as she wants to cherish these times more. Meanwhile, in her room, Anastasia is sound asleep, or so everyone thought. It is in her plans to let everyone celebrate greatly so that by the end of the day, her maids will be too tired to even notice her using powers. She opens her eyes and checks her maid, who is already snoring quietly in a chair across Anastasia's crib. Assured, Anastasia then uses her powers to summon her magical information gatherer, Choco the pup. What a cute puppy! The puppy leaps towards Anastasia, whom he calls Evil Lord. Choco nags cutely at Anastasia for not seeing him for 20 years. He expresses how he misses her and talks like there's no tomorrow. Basically, this is one of the main reasons why Anastasia did not want to summon him for 20 years. For context, Anastasia can summon or call those she has met from her past lives. One of what she can summon is Choco, who has been with her since her 13th life when she was an evil lord. Up until now, being with the pup was an utter comfort to Anastasia. Choco was originally Anastasia's informant for all her life and called him Choco because the pup resembles her favorite chocolate. After some time in silence, Choco climbs up Anastasia's head and pleads to be patted by his master. Anastasia then shows her affection towards the pup by patting him on the head and rubbing his belly. Soon, Choco is already having a great and comfortable time in the youngest princess's lap. Later on, Anastasia speaks up and commands her information gatherer, Choco, to look into the entity that got inside her dream. At first, she informs him of what had happened in her dream, and the pup follows her orders right away. Anastasia knows how Choco witnessed her cruel lives, and what the pup wants is for his master to have the most comfortable life more than anything else. In the morning, Anastasia receives information about a mystery between the Empire and the kingdom which her present father, the Duke, is reigning. For context, the peculiarity of the situation leans towards the presence of a magic tower near the kingdom, when the Empire is more inclined toward magic than the kingdoms, which are supposedly neutral to power or magic. Sadly, that range of information gathered is what Choco could only find, and her powers can only cover the kingdom. However, this information kept her on edge. For now, she wants to do her best to develop as a baby for her family, who, for the first time, have given her a comfortable life. Even Choco feels how comfortable Anastasia is now. In the afternoon, while Anastasia and Choco are chilling in the garden, Mikhail pops out of nowhere and wants to pat the pup. Choco should not be visible to anybody, so Anastasia kinda panicked. However, Mikhail nags her about the gifts that she wants, as he would give them to her. She gets even more annoyed when he keeps suggesting things. But what intrigues her the most is the information that she gathered about Mikhail Leventis, famous for his silence. Mikhail Leventis confidently claimed that he was able to walk in just 6 months, but only after a year that he was able to talk, and his first words were mama and papa. There is even a rumor that the Archduke's family was turned upside down by this unexpected event. Aw, he's such an adorable little genius. However, even then, he only spoke when it was absolutely necessary. Sadly, his parents passed away 2 years ago, which made him even less talkative. Perhaps that's the reason why Grand Duke Leventis sent him to their duchy to give him time to be like other kids. However, Anastasia notices that he seems distant and cold towards her sister, Laurencia, who is very friendly. So Anastasia can't help but wonder why on earth he's suddenly so talkative with her, to call him cool, and if she can help him catch a glimpse of her smiling face. Anastasia continues to ignore him. Just then, he brings up her upcoming birthday, expressing his eagerness to give her a gift and asking what she likes. Anastasia looks back. It has been a year since she was born into this family, feeling as if the past was so wasted because she always had 20 years of life as a curse. Suddenly, Anastasia's servant calls them for snacks, further asking Mikhail about Laurencia's whereabouts since she asked to invite them earlier for a snack. However, when she witnessed Mikhail chatting with Anastasia with a bright smile, she couldn't help but compare it to how he treated her. Laurencia is naturally friendly and chatty, yet with Mikhail, everything feels different. Despite her consent, Mikhail remains distant and can't even bring himself to call her by her nickname. I feel bad for her. She just wants to play with him. Time passes, and finally, Anastasia's birthday party arrives. A year ago, during the summer, her 100th life began with immense disappointment. But now, she feels something she hasn't felt in a while. Excitement! As Anastasia gazes into the mirror, she reflects on the hardship and misery of her previous lives. Each birthday felt like a solitary journey with nobody to tend to her needs, and she lacked the will to care for herself too. But this time feels different. Instead of the usual heavy, dull emotions, she senses a subtle, quiet joy in her heart, as if long-forgotten feelings are resurfacing within her. Even hearing happy birthday from her family would be enough to fill her heart. Just then, her mother asks what she likes to wear, explaining that the dress she will choose for her first birthday will determine her future partner. Is this really true? 'Cause I will ask my mom about it. Maybe it can help me find a good one. LOL. Upon learning that her mother adorned a pink dress with emerald hair accessories, Anastasia swiftly notices the resemblance to her father's pink hair and emerald eyes. In another life, had anyone else shared such a tale, she wouldn't have believed it. Luck wouldn't have been on her side. But hearing it from her mother instills a belief and anticipation of such a possibility. She realizes that this feeling isn't as scary as she once thought it would be. Finally, she picks a dress, expecting it to be plain white. However, as the light hits the fabric, it shimmers in a myriad of colors, adorned with various jewels and even a decorative belt. It's a simple dress, yet beautifully embellished and vibrant. As she inhales its scent, she feels a surge of hope she never anticipated. For 100 years, this was the first time she believed in having trustworthy partners, realizing that her mother's prayers may have brought them to her. After a year residing in the dukedom, Anastasia has become accustomed to lavish party preparations. The hall is adorned with opulent decorations, yet it's the statue of her holding a ruby that catches her eye. Suddenly, Mikhail appears beside her, asking if she likes it. Realizing that Mikhail must be behind the statue, she swiftly walks away, leaving him puzzled and uncertain if she likes it. As she surveys the surroundings, Anastasia is struck by the surreal beauty that envelops her. The presence of only beautiful things feels like a dream. Her family calls her, and as she rushes to join them, she is enveloped in warm embraces and heartfelt greetings from everyone. Believing that the genuine affection stems from their admiration for the Duke, She expresses gratitude for their hard work. As the festivities progress, the hall becomes adorned with increasingly fascinating and special things. Despite having attended various parties before, Anastasia finds this one, where she's the center of attention, quite awkward. Aw, don't be! You deserve all the happiness and love in the world. Suddenly, her father extends his hand, inviting her to join him for the first dance. It seems improbable with a 1-year-old child in tow, but the Duke makes it happen effortlessly. He kneels to meet her eye level and gracefully sweeps her into the air. Everyone applauds and compliments her on how well she dances, even if it's all her father's doing. As her father monopolizes her time on the dance floor, her siblings argue for their turn. Eventually, they are holding hands with Anastasia in the center and dance to the remainder of the song. Remarkably, Anastasia's stamina allows her to dance another round once the song ends. Just then, Mikhail steps forward and asks for her hand. Though his persistence can be annoying, Anastasia finds herself unable to refuse, realizing he truly doesn't know when to give up. Despite any annoyance, she doesn't hate his persistence. Witnessing the sight of her family joining hands and dancing together fills Anastasia's heart with joy. Although the party officially ends in the afternoon, her parents allow the servants to continue celebrating into the late evening. Eventually, they all gather, spending the evening as a family. Reflecting on the passing year, Anastasia acknowledges how quickly time has flown by, yet she still harbors a lingering fear of becoming too deeply immersed in its warmth. Nevertheless, she vows to cherish and enjoy each day with her loved ones. I'm so happy for her. She's really going to be happy and loved this time. That night, her father tucks her into bed. With just a gentle tap, she falls asleep, and once again, the baby from her dreams appears. The baby enthusiastically asks if Anastasia misses him. For the first time in a while, the door was wide open, so he assumed she was inviting him. What is this supposed to mean? This suggests that the baby symbolizes something from Anastasia's past or her subconscious desires. However, Anastasia denies that she invited him, which disappoints the baby, who then questions if she has forgotten him. Suddenly, the baby transforms into a man and asks if Anastasia now remembers who he is. This transformation showcases the mysterious figure's ability to control his form, even in Anastasia's unconscious mind. Anastasia marvels at his power and wonders how much control he truly possesses. To Anastasia's surprise, she then transforms into a high school girl from her first life. When questioned about how he knew her from her appearance from her first life, the man cryptically replies that he can easily show at least one of her old appearances because he's the only one who understands her. This revelation leaves Anastasia feeling confused and unsettled. As the encounter comes to an end, the man bids farewell, stating that it's almost time. He assures Anastasia that he will be waiting for the day she comes to visit him again. And now we're left with more questions and answers. Anastasia wakes up with a throbbing headache, her mind still reeling from the encounter in her dream. She recalls hearing her name from the first life just before waking, but the memory remains hazy due to her fever-induced blurred consciousness. Summoning Choco, she instructs him to find any information on the mysterious man who appeared in her dream. Despite her fading strength, she holds onto the hope of encountering him again. However, 2 weeks pass without any sign of the man, even though she purposely refrained from casting a barrier in her dream to allow him easy access. Thanks to his appearance in her dream, the entire mansion was thrown into a panic over her fever. As Anastasia calms herself, she begins to sort through her thoughts. Firstly, she considers the possibility that the man in her dreams is also a reincarnated individual like herself, perhaps having lived longer than she has. If she had more accumulated power, she might find it easier to decipher and access memories from her first life. This could explain why he claims to understand her, as he may have known her for a long time. However, if he is not a reincarnated person, then his true identity remains a mystery. Anastasia ponders whether he could be the one responsible for her reincarnation. But if he were an absolute god, his claim of understanding her would seem contradictory. In that case, he would be more of an enemy than an ally. Regardless of his identity, Anastasia questions why he chose to reveal himself to her now. Before she can delve deeper into these questions, Choco arrives with bad news. He couldn't uncover the man's identity. However, he did manage to pinpoint the location of the man across the mountain range. Choco describes the Axian Empire as weird, vastly different from the pure and magical powers that Anastasia possesses. Strange magical powers are the center of the struggle for continental supremacy, and the news about weapons that use magic further intensify the intrigue surrounding this conflict. Even more strange, for a year, her fate became blurred, though she did not forget the time of destruction is coming to the world where she has been born. Anastasia can't shake off her suspicion that the Axian Empire plays a major role in the impending destruction, especially since their kingdom is among the targets. So she feels a sense of urgency to prepare her kingdom for what may come. However, it's not just about preparation. She also feels a deep responsibility to protect her family's daily life until the very end, as a way to repay the affection she has received from them. Such a brave little girl. The world owes you everything. Suddenly, Laurencia bursts through the door with news of something big happening, sending chills down Anastasia's spine. She realizes she's not mentally prepared for signs of impending destruction yet. However, upon inspection, she discovers it's only about a family vacation. She feels foolish for feeling so tense initially, but the excitement she feels is unlike her usual self. Realizing that the destruction hasn't commenced yet, Anastasia decides it's okay to enjoy the vacation a little. Little does she know, this summer vacation will bring even more unexpected experiences her way. Within the duchy, in the village of Ainlay, the servants warmly welcome Anastasia and her family. Anticipating a lengthy conversation, Anastasia decides to pace around the spacious grounds to practice walking. The palace is too tidy, so she can't practice there. However, her concentration wavers as she notices eyes following her every move. When offered something delicious by the servants, she recalls her mother's warning not to talk to strangers. Despite her parents being nearby, Anastasia feels compelled to heed her mother's words and walks away from the servants. The servants find it amusing as she resembles her mother's stubbornness. Yet the servants persist in trying to capture Anastasia's attention and persuade her to accept their offer. Feeling apprehensive, Anastasia imagines herself being consumed, but she still feels safe when her mother gives her permission to approach the servants. With her mother's assurance, Anastasia gathers her courage and walks back to the servants, extending her palms in a gesture asking for their offer. Oh, look at that face and those tiny little palms! She's so cute, I might squeeze her right now! When handed a slice of watermelon, Anastasia is wary at first. However, as she takes a bite, she's pleasantly surprised to find it sweeter, cooler, and more delicious than she had anticipated. Despite only taking a small bite, Anastasia is amazed that people who aren't even family members can find happiness in something not of a big deal. Of course it's a big deal! You are so loved! Despite finding it hard to believe, Anastasia wants to convince herself that this life is ordinary, even though it feels a bit overwhelming at times. The bright and warm colors of the emotions she experiences make it all seem unreal. Upon arriving at the house they'll be staying in, Anastasia receives a tiger hat, which she finds somewhat questionable. However, she decides not to make a fuss about it since her siblings seem to like it. Their father then suggests taking a playboat out. Anastasia hears that her father enjoys surprising them, and seeing their excitement, he eagerly proceeds with the plan. Damien insists on riding his own boat, but because he wants to play with Anastasia, he ends up on the same boat with her. As their father pushes Laurencia's boat and moves to push another, a sudden gust of wind appears out of nowhere. Before anyone can react, Laurencia's boat is propelled towards a large boulder. Anastasia notices that the wind is unusually fast, realizing the danger her sister faces if her boat collides with any rocks at such speed. She attempts to cast a protective spell, but her magic fails to work as usual. Despite her efforts, the wind abruptly changes direction, complicating their rescue efforts. Thankfully, their father manages to grab Laurencia's boat and rescue her without injury. Tearfully, Laurencia explains that the boat started moving on its own without her doing anything wrong. Poor Laurencia. Hush now, your daddy is there for you. Anastasia suspects the involvement of the man from her dream. She felt his strange magical power as soon as Laurencia's boat began to move, and she sensed a malevolent force trying to invade her body when she used her magic to control the situation. Furious at the thought of him endangering her sister's life, Anastasia vows to defeat him. Hours later, Anastasia falls ill with a high fever from overexerting herself with magic. Surprisingly weak in this life, she refuses to blame her mother for her illness, blaming it instead on the man from her dreams. Unexpectedly, disaster strikes again when the man activates her wind magic power without her consent, causing her to spill her food. Despite feeling her mother's potential anger, Anastasia is touched by her parents' gentle understanding and concern. They inquire if she has any frustrations or difficulties communicating, demonstrating their unconditional love and acceptance. Despite the reoccurring accidents, Anastasia realizes that the man's goal is to isolate her from her family. Determined not to let him succeed, she vows to do anything to maintain her normal, warm family life. And even though uncertain of the meaning behind the numbers 99 and 1, Anastasia hopes to redefine that course, whatever it might be. On their way back home, the trip was hectic, but it was enjoyable. Luckily, at the end, she put up a barrier so that guy wouldn't come near them. Even that one who tried to drag her in gave up after seeing her family. Anastasia realizes that her family is truly remarkable. Instead of pushing her away, they embraced her. Without them, she would have been left alone, exactly as the man wanted. This victory wasn't hers alone. Her family made it possible. For the first time in 100 rebirths, Anastasia feels truly grateful. Days later, when someone asks the second child, Lorenzia Endelblanc, who she loves the most in the world, she will answer without hesitation, her mother. However, this year, her favorite is the youngest, who bears a striking resemblance to their beloved mother. Unpopular opinion, Lorenzia is the cutest sister ever. Observing how Mikhail always accompanies Anastasia and persuades her to accept his gifts, Lorenzia can't help but feel like he's stealing her sister away from her. Seeing Anastasia seemingly dislike the gifts, Lorenzia interprets it as Mikhail forcing her sister to like them. Lorenzia wants to confront Mikhail about his behavior, but she finds him intimidating. Despite her efforts to be friendly, she feels like he's bullying Anastasia behind her back. She believes that Mikhail's hostility towards her is a deliberate ploy to keep her away from Anastasia. Otherwise, she can't understand why Anastasia would despise him so much. That's a kind conclusion there, Lorenzia. Don't jump in yet. A few days later, Lorenzia pays Anastasia a visit in her room, embracing her tightly. Anastasia appreciates her sister sacrificing her nap time just to spend time together, so she readily accepts Lorenzia's invitation to go on an adventure throughout the entire mansion. The royal knights offer to accompany them, but Lorenzia insists on taking her little sister alone, asserting her role as a reliable older sister. When Mikhail arrives at Anastasia's room, he discovers it empty and a sense of unease washes over him. Lorenzia enthusiastically explores the mansion with her sister, but only Anastasia can feel that the servants and the royal knights are hiding behind the columns. Just then, Lorenzia stops outside the first room they're going to explore, but somehow, this murderous-looking room emits a strong aura. When the butler sees the two, asking for their dad's whereabouts, he apologizes since their dad is busy. However, no one's too busy not to see their cute babies. Seeing how enthusiastic their dad is, Anastasia wonders if she was wrong to deduce that there's a murderous intent in the room. Inside, Anastasia witnesses the pitiful aides who work relentlessly. For a moment, they were excused because of the kids, but their father never fails to remind them about their report in 2 hours. Just then, their father asks them why they came. Lorenzia replies that since he is the coolest when he works, they have to come to see him. Also, she admits that he's the coolest too when he swings a sword. Their father suggests going to the training grounds, but Lorenzia strongly opposes it because she is exploring the estate with Anastasia now. Also, she firmly tells her father that they won't be staying for long. It's because her mom told her that when he's working, they can't disturb him for too long. Their father tells them that they are not disturbing at all. Lorenzia ends up lecturing her father that no matter how much he wants to play with them, he still must work. In that way, he'll be good. There's really something with Lorenzia that brightens our mood. She's like a ray of sunshine. Anastasia notices that Lorenzia is imitating their mother's habit of educating. Seeing how cute her sister is, Anastasia laughs so hard that it makes the two surprised. Let's admit it, guys. Seeing her laugh over cute things makes our hearts flutter too. Lorenzia continues to tell him that Anastasia probably wants to say the same thing as her. So if he wants to be praised, he also needs to do the things he doesn't want to do. In Anastasia's point of view, it isn't particularly like that, but she doesn't know anymore. Lorenzia's happiness is her priority after all, so they leave him and proceed to go to the next. Lorenzia's bag is full of snacks, and she even drew a map. Anastasia realizes that she prepared this much because she wanted to play with her. However, Anastasia suddenly trips over and is about to fall. So guys, what do you think of this story so far? Please subscribe and turn on notifications for updates on this and all our other stories, so you can be the first to find out when they're out. Thank you so much for your support. See you in the next one!